Today we're going to be doing a 1997 Camry rear strut replacement. And here's the condition of the struts and the sway bar link. Since I'm in there, I'm going to go ahead and replace all of this. Very loose. 2 bolts, major bolts that hold the strut in place. And here's the bolt that holds the brake line. There's another bolt back there. That's the bolt that holds the sway bar and down below. There's also another bolt that holds the ABS line. First thing I did was go ahead and I wanted to get to the strut top mount. And you do that by going to a panel on the rear seat. One bolt. Once you take that one bolt out, you can pull the panel out and it will reveal the stems of the strut mount, top strut mount. Very hard to get into. I'm trying to show you how much little space there is to get into that area. So you want to make sure you have the right tools, right ratchet, extension handle, so you can get in there and really take those bolts out. I loosened these bolts. Then I went ahead down below and started taking out the brake line bolt. Once you do that, you have to be very careful. It's metal, so you just want to take it out of its position now, carefully. Don't want to break that pipe. Next was the ABS line right there. Might be hard to see, but there is a bolt there, trust me, and you just want to take that out. Loosens up the ABS line, take that out of the way, just remove all these lines out of the way. Then with my impact wrench, I took out these 2 bolts that hold the strut in place. For me, it was a little tough. Next thing is I wanted to take the sway bar and use my impact wrench because it was really tough to take that out by hand. But with the impact wrench, it broke the seal or whatever's holding it in place, and then by hand I went ahead and took it out. In the middle there's a hex wrench, so you'll need a ratchet with a hole in the middle there so you can put that hex wrench through. It holds the stem in place while you take the bolt out, so it doesn't spin while you turn the bolt. And then that'll just pop right out. Here I am doing the same thing, hex wrench in the middle and loosening down the bottom half of that sway bar link. Next, I went ahead and popped out those 2 main bolts that hold the strut in place. I used a little ratchet extension there. Just lazy, call me lazy, but that's what I used. You can see it pop out on the other side here. Once you do that, it releases the strut. Once you get it free from the wheel base there, you can now go up top and release the 3 bolts that hold the strut in place. Again, there's a ratchet with the hole in the middle, really makes the job easier with those long stems from the strut. This is really a 2-man job, so at this point I had my son release the bolts at the top while I held the strut below, and as soon as it freed the bolts, I was able to take the strut out. I use Sensen from APX Auto. $131 for all 4 struts. Can't beat the price, and I have to tell you, the ride is beautiful. You can see the new versus old, and I also rented from O'Reilly's the strut compressors. Put those on again. Make sure you get some good instruction. This can be very dangerous if not done properly. You can actually, the springs will shoot out and if they would get released and spring forward and knock them out. What I did here was go from side to side as I compress the spring. Do some turns here, there, and turns on the other side, taking turns. And I use an impact wrench. You can do this by hand, but there it goes. You can see the strut has now been released. You couldn't do this by hand, but it would be very tough. Thank goodness for the impact wrench. Once it was loose, I went ahead and took the middle bolt out. And that released the strut from the spring. And there goes the rubber spring seat. Now here is a comparison between the two as I compress the old versus new. You can see the old continues to compress while I'm having a very hard time compressing the new strut. And you can see the recovery there. Again, the new strut's much slower. Here's the new spring seat. I wanted to show you I had the old spring seat, the new spring seat. This is a personal decision. I went ahead and bought it thinking that the old spring seat would be in really bad shape. It looks dirty, but its thickness was still there. Personal choice, they were $20 a piece. I returned to $40 for both. And I reused the spring seat that I had that was there. Personal decision, I opted for saving the money. So that spring seat goes right there where the strut's at, and there's a specific position. It's shaped to the strut, and it's shaped to where the bottom of the spring will go right there. And that's where I'm going to put it. Really a two-man job, but my cameraman wasn't able to help as he's holding the camera. See, I'm trying my best to put it right into that position, which you want to do as well. Now right here, the stem of the strut goes into the strut mount. There is a notch within the strut mount that this spring must go into. That's absolutely necessary that you do that, or you'll have a loose strut bouncing around. So once you put it into that notch, you want to go ahead and bolt it down into place. And that's what keeps the strut stem from spinning as you tighten the middle bolt. Now here I'm starting to loosen the strut compressors. Comes right out. And once it's in, I'm going to tighten it some more. Once I've taken the compressor off, now I'm putting it back in, putting the two main bolts back onto the strut. Had to hammer these back in as well. After I did that, I tightened it back up with the impact wrench, and now I'm replacing the sway bar links. And you can see it's real loose. The new ones, real tight, can't even move them. I put those in and left them in place while I went ahead and put the brake line and the ABS back into place on the strut mounts there that they have. And now the last thing I'm going to do is go ahead and tighten these into place. You're going to need a hex wrench, and with my ratchet with the hole in the middle, tighten it all up. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.